Hello, I am the Dungeon Tutor. Welcome. Since 2016, I've been answering your questions, giving advice and inspiration to countless gamers. Here, you can ask questions in the comments and get your own videos as an answer. So I encourage you, enjoy by all means. But come back to visit with your friend, the Dungeon Tutor. Hello friends, I am the Dungeon Tutor. Welcome! Today is RPGaDay 2025, day 21. The topic, is unexpected. Yeah, okay, unexpected. It's a good word, and something that honestly can be tricky to present in a role-playing game. Unexpected, something that your players don't see coming, something that maybe you don't see coming. And those are the kind of things that really make role-playing games different from any other medium. If you're watching a movie, there will likely be a twist. There will be some kind of crux on which the plot turns. There may be some development that you did not see coming. But once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Like if it's a movie that's this old and it's a spoiler for you, watch more movies. But The Sixth Sense, Bruce Willis's character being dead and just being seen by this boy through the whole movie. You don't know that going into the movie, and you get to that point, you're like, oh wow, that's crazy. You're surprised. It's unexpected, but can you ever be surprised by that again? No, you can't. And the gripe that a lot of people had was people spoiled that moment for them. And when they got to that point in the movie, they weren't surprised. They weren't shocked. That wasn't the great twist anymore, which is unfortunate. And that is the problem in those kind of moments. Now, I was lucky, for example, in Final Fantasy VII. I had not heard spoilers for this game. So I rented it because I worked at a video game store. I could get free rentals, so I rented it. And I played up to the end of that first disc. You know what I'm talking about. And again, it's an old game. If you haven't played it yet, there's a dramatic moment, irreversible, involving one of the main characters up to that point, and something happens. If you've seen it, you've seen it. I'm not, I could. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, it's an older game. If you're that curious, you can even Google it or watch it on YouTube any number of times. It's fine. And actually, I really kind of want to play the redone edition up till that point again. I have it. I really should. I just haven't spent a lot of time playing video games lately. But it's a dramatic, jaw-dropping moment if it's unexpected. If you're expecting it, you're braced. It happens. It's still got emotional impact because it's a heck of a story. But the unexpected twist is gone. The flavor, the shock. I was silent for a solid 5 minutes and just wrapping my head around what I had seen. Of course, there's a part of me that's like, this is a video game. I could just use an item and reverse this. No, you can't. It's part of the story. That has happened, and it is irreversible. And despite the logic of video games, some things just can't be undone. And, it worked really well for me because I had that unspoiled first time. Now, if we want to talk about, as a game, in a role-playing game, setting up unexpected moments that are valid and legitimately unexpected. That can be very, very tricky. Sometimes they come organically. Sometimes your players will make unexpected decisions on you, in which case your skills at improv can really come to the fore. If the players go in a completely unexpected direction, and the more you play with a group, the less likely this is going to be, quite honestly. In my time, I know most of the trends, most of the decisions my players are going to make before they make them. But every once in a while, they're still capable of surprising this old game master. And in those circumstances, it's a test. It's a test of how I can react to them, as opposed to the usual occurrence of them reacting to me. Because generally the game master drives more of the plot than the players do, with some notable exceptions, absolutely. But in general, the plot revolves around what I am having the NPCs do, what I'm having as events that are set into motion. Is it a static game where nothing happens until the players get there? Like if you're running an adventure like Keep on the Borderlands. You can very much present it as a static game where the monsters are just there, the players go into the room and then they interact with the monster, they go to the next room and the monsters are just there as if they've just been waiting to do something, waiting for the players to get there. You can do that. The most fun I ever had, though, was when the players were playing through, and there's this stretch where they meet all the lesser creatures, and by this time they were 3rd level. We'd had some extended fun through the swamplands and stuff, and they got to the Caves of Chaos, and it was like, this isn't going to be that challenging until they get to some of the bigger, beefier monsters in the area. So at one point they were going along, and they came upon a birthday party. The kobolds had baked a cake and were bringing them over to the goblin chieftain. Like, hey, we're in the same dungeon. We know it's your birthday. We made you a cake. And they were having a party together. Again, the sum total of the tribes of goblins and kobolds were only minor nuisances to the players who had a wizard who could cast sleep. And I knew this. I knew these encounters individually were not going to be all that exciting for the players because they had gotten very adept at ending fights with sleep. And even if they didn't sleep the monsters, if the monsters had caught them by surprise, for instance, and gotten that first round in, they could really have not done that much damage to put the issue into great consideration. It just would have made them draw back for a day, perhaps, to heal and retool. I'm not saying I couldn't have turned that into something more, but it really wasn't the major encounter for that area, and I didn't really need to shock the players with how well I can make goblins and kobolds be scary. I can, but in this particular instance, there were far more interesting things I wanted to throw at them, so I let them come in on a birthday party, and the players were shocked. They're like, goblins and kobolds together with this big cake? What's going on? And this, for a moment, I decided, combat didn't break out right away. The players didn't immediately go in and start slaughtering. They just were shocked. They were stunned at what they were seeing. Goblins and kobolds sharing a space, not living together, but they were certainly enjoying each other's company for a bit. Shouts of Briark were no, they weren't. Sorry, that's insider humor. If you've never done Keep on the Borderlands, that's an inside joke, and I apologize for that. But the party came in, and here they are. We're playing. I had upped it. We were playing in 3rd edition in this particular one. So they're 3rd level. They've got all their combat abilities. They're all loaded up, but they're trying to comprehend what was going on. They saw the cake. They saw kobolds and goblins eating cake together and drinking fungus beer. And for a moment, they were like shocked. And then I had this little kobold child come over to them. Which, yeah, in a lot of groups, that just would have been, ugh. And came over and she pointed up at the wizard's pointy hat, and she presented this little paper conical hat with a bit of string underneath it, a party hat. And she presented that up to him. And wouldn't you know it, the wizard took the hat from the kobold child, and he took off his hat and he put it on his head. And then he cast sleep on the rest of the group, and the group moved up to murder all of them, except for the children, because we were still at an issue where there's moral and ethical dilemmas about being able to slaughter non-combatants. And yeah, they resorted to your traditional murder hoboing. But I thought for just a moment we could elevate that to a moment where humans, orcs, or humans, kobold, well, actually a human, two dwarves, an elf, and a half orc. No halflings, no. Could for a moment live together, and they could enjoy a moment, and maybe in the end they could come to some kind of conclusion that didn't involve slaughtering. But no, there was still slaughter. I wasn't terribly surprised. I may have had some hopes for that encounter, but I wasn't terribly surprised. They're adventurers, and they made the executive decision as adventurers. They did not want to have to deal with the reality of a small tribe of goblins and a small tribe of kobolds in their domain that they were going to carve out. For whatever reason. The group after that looked at me, who I just, again, mechanically went through the process, counting the bodies and stacking them. And they're like, was that supposed to happen? And I said, it was your choice the whole time. The entire thing was your choice. What happened? I'm not saying you did wrong. I'm not saying you did right. I am saying that in that instant, it could have been a nonviolent outcome. You could have just partied with them. You could have maybe added something to that engagement, perhaps. But you could also have killed everybody, as you did. And what did they end up doing with the children? I think they rounded up the children and they sent them off to a church to be re-educated. Very colonialistic. But that was the compromise they had resolved. It's like, we can't really take prisoners in a dungeon because we have no way of getting them to either justice or to a point where their only memories are going to be us slaughtering their parents. So they felt they had to take them someplace to re-educate them, and that always goes well. So after the dungeon was done, they left the children cowering in a corner, and then they gathered them up and took them out. Did they? I think we might even have forgotten about them. Even worse, perhaps. But again, they only existed to those players as a low single-digit hit point count. If they had chosen to... Well, then, if they had Fireball, they probably would resolve the whole thing at once. They didn't. So they had to settle for figuring out what to do with them, which they did. I don't think they went through with it. Now that I'm talking about it, I don't think we remembered about those babies and children. So, yeah, that's kind of how that went. The surprise to them was that they actually had this non-combatant encounter against what they had assumed was always the circumstance with goblins and kobolds, that you kill them. I mean, they're going to try to kill you. They want what you have. They're evil, utterly, usually following demons and so on. They're dark gods. And that's it, right? Well, didn't have to be that way. My game can be a little bit deeper than that. And they responded in the way they always do. And, listening to it as an outsider, you don't know these people, obviously, and you don't necessarily know my group. I've had many groups. This is actually an older group than any of my current ones. But there's plenty of people who would react one way, plenty of people who would react the other way. I put it on a knife edge. And maybe it was just that one person who was having a bad day that day and just, that's it, I'm going to kill them. I don't know. To this day, I really don't know. And I really don't deeply care. It does say something, but nothing too dire that I really would take the time to consider. Are they bad for doing that? No. Left to their own devices, they were still evil creatures, despite the fact they had this one glistening moment of working together to celebrate together, because the DM is a sentimental fool, perhaps. Perhaps there was a possibility of more. I don't even know. They reacted as adventurers seeing evil creatures in front of them. Okay, we can do that. My players have surprised me, however, in the past. For instance, I gave them, in my current campaign, I gave them a chance at a magical item, a powerful magical item, and they got it. The magical item, it is a magical sword, an intelligent magical sword, in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage storyline for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And this sword's entire purpose is to get back to its family in Mid-rant. Now, Mid-rant is a long ways away from Waterdeep. To get there, the best way to go is you take the southern road out of Waterdeep. You head eastward through the western lands, pass by Dragonspear Castle, pass by a number of wide open spaces that are probably warred over quite a bit, but honestly, that's some of the gaps in the shining points of light idea. They're probably not civilized lands where you might find monsters across the plains and things, but party cut through the Great Trade Road, going through, and eventually winding up and around to get to Cormier. That's a long trip. You have to pass by the entire width of Anarok, the Great Desert, and that hangs over the north. If you want to make a direct beeline, you could try to cut across Anarok, but it's a nasty place to travel. Very challenging, and big monsters. Nasty stuff. They were warned. That's probably, if you want speed, you can risk it. And a few people do, but most people don't, because it's absolutely hellish terrain and magic gone awry and monsters. So they went the long, safer way. Had a number of fun encounters. And to take this sword back to Mid-rant. In the middle of the adventure of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, they made an executive decision again. They're like, you know what? We are not going to keep going with your adventure. We are a third of the way through. We are going to take advantage of the fact that we are powerful adventurers. We're going to buy a bunch of stuff and take some of the loot. They found a whole bunch of antique dwarven beer, a kind that's not even found anymore. And they loaded it up. They bought wagons. They got a team. They actually bought a group of guards to basically take over guard duty so they didn't have to. And they took that journey. And as the campaign goes on right now, they're still in Cormier because I had this wonderful little adventure where they were framed for the murder of the Prince of Cormier, Zoon the Fifth. It was chaotic. It was kind of fun. I'm not going to deny it. Although, again, it did deplete my batteries somewhat. Referring back to the video on Renew, still has left me in a kind of somewhat DM exhausted state. But it was fun. It was good. My own personal content. I was proud of it. And now they have to get up to Mid-rant, which is to the northeast a little bit. And they've loaded up with goods so that they can make money on that trip too, because the elves need stuff. They're still cleaning up there. And then they can drop off the sword, and then they can take a teleportation circle back to Waterdeep, and they can get back into the dungeon, which I think, moving towards the completion of that campaign, yes, we need to do that. And I have some things involved so that they have to, flex their newly enhanced muscles and do some more good against a hated foe before they can complete tidying up the dungeon. But I was surprised. I did not see that coming. I thought, okay, the sword isn't happy with us. We'll use it as much as we can and then file it away so that when we're done with this Waterdeep thing, we're going to go take care of that and bring that to Mid-rant. No, they did it right in the middle of the campaign. I was shocked. I was very surprised. And with that, I guess, in a way, kind of pleasantly surprised, although it extended the campaign I just want over with so I can get out of 5th edition D&D for a while. But honestly, the way my players care about their characters, the way they care about this world and this campaign, my desire to get out of it is somewhat selfish. I'm doing it for me. I don't particularly love 5th edition and what it's done to my players and driving them to get perfect builds and stuff. But they're proving that isn't the case. They're proving they do care about their characters and that they are making efforts to make this world live and breathe and not just be the launching platform for their power as they, peak and get closer and closer to 20th. Which we've never done. I've never gotten characters to 20th level in 5th edition. I've had no desire. Always ending campaigns before that. So, yeah, I owe it to them. We'll get there. We will absolutely finish that campaign. If I have the life in me to do it, we will do it. They have earned it. I am proud of my players. I love my players tremendously. I do respect them, and I am very, very happy with them. And if any of them see this, I'm absolutely proud of you. You have made these characters that could just be bags of powers and reduced down to avatars with abilities, just like they were way back in the day. But you've made them live and breathe. You've had your own interests for them, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of you for that. It's not what I've done. Well, I mean, I could take some credit in giving them a world they can live in, and they can like things, and they can trust things and know things and feel like that world is more theirs. Maybe I had a bit to do with that, but no, that's the quality of the players I've got. They're great folk, and they've made some very, very good characters that I will remember long after this campaign is over. There have been games that I've played in that the characters around my character or the PCs were utterly forgettable, save for maybe a few touching moments. There have been some excellent campaigns that I've had where the characters are imprinted into my memory forever. This, well, may be one of those. Several of those characters. I don't think I'm ever going to forget characters like Luxor, the Tabaxi Rogue Warlock, who is one of the most chaotic elements in the game I've ever seen. Also, the unluckiest. Swear, the guy has got lucky as a feat, and I just frequently just smile when he rolls the second die, knowing it's going to be worse than the first, and it almost always is. Hilariously so. The horrible luck they've all shared and learned to laugh at, because this campaign has been cursed. They still get through, they do, but so many botches, so many botches. So many failures out of everything being set up perfectly for success. It's tragic but hilarious at the same time. So, and again, unexpectedly, this organically grew from session after session, watching these players come to the table and love their characters, love the adventure they're about to step into. I provide the adventure, so that's very flattering to me, but it's a credit to them. And that sometimes is rather unexpected. So, thank you, my friends. I do appreciate you listening to this bit of autobiographical chatter. If you enjoyed this, please, by all means, like, subscribe, notify, all the YouTube stuff. But perhaps leave a comment on some way you were surprised, or, how hearing about my experiences might make you feel about your own. I'd love to hear about it, your perspective, and maybe it'll make another video. We can launch into something else together, you and me. That would be cool. That would be very, very cool. But I do hope more than anything else to see you again. I keep doing these videos, and I hope that you come along for the ride. And if you do, between that happy time with the next video and now, I hope that you, yes, you get a chance to roll some dice, to play some games, to have some fun. Stay safe out there, my friends. Until that next time, farewell.